Hi guys, and thank you for tuning in. This is another one of my Rob Bryan talks about artists and records that have inspired me through the years. And today I'm talking about the amazing Kate Bush. Now, Kate Bush is one of those artists that I think, a bit like David Bowie, Bob Dylan, Prince, there's probably many others, but they can divide a room. You know, you drop that in at a cocktail party. Oh, I like Kate Bush. People go, oh, really? You know, that kind of crazy squawking lady who does all that ballet dance and stuff. And, you know, that's one way of looking at it, I guess. There's a bit of me that actually kind of likes artists that really divide people like that make people sort of go, oh, really? Why? And Kate Bush is one of those artists. And certainly being a drummer, sometimes people will then follow it up with, but you don't sing or play the piano or dance. Or I might do all three of those things, but badly, who knows. But you're a drummer. What inspiration do you get from Kate Bush? And it's a really long story. And I think this video could be about an hour long if we could get into some of the stuff, but trying to keep it nice and short. But I remember that a lot like the earlier pop stars that I've spoken about already on some of these Rob Bryan talks about clips. I was quite young when I first saw Kate Bush. I think I was 8 or 9 when she appeared on Top of the Pops. I guess it would have been Wuthering Heights. And I think without getting into a time machine and going back, for some people it'd be hard to them to really, some younger musicians maybe, to understand how different it was at the time. I certainly know that sat there eating my tea and biscuits, watching Top of the Pops every Thursday night at 7:30, whenever it was. And that got to number 1. And within the last quarter of an hour, if she was higher up the charts, you would hear the Kate Bush song. And when I saw her and heard her, it was a little bit kind of scary. It's like this crazy lady with the eyes making the faces and stuff, with this amazing voice. And then a couple of years later, I think maybe when I was 10 or something, I don't know, and I started playing, and I was playing drums from 9. So I think when I got a little bit older, I started buying albums and playing drums down in my parents' garage, put the headphones on and play along. And I can't remember the exact moment, but I would have remembered Babushka and Wow and all those singles coming on, Top of the Pops and stuff, being in the top 10 or top 20 or top 5 sometimes. And still quite liking the voice. You know, it was just so different that kind of it just pulled me in. I was like, wow, she's always, whenever she's on telly, she's always gonna, for that 2 or 3 minutes, I'm gonna be sat there going, what? This is crazy. And I think because between my mum playing very sort of commercial music and dad playing a bit more muso-related music, somehow Kate Bush met in the middle with lovely, gorgeous melodies, but you know, the chords and stuff would be a bit more muso as well on some of the songs, and some of the forms would be slightly deeper than just your average verse, chorus, you know, guitar solo, verse, chorus out, or whatever, you know. So somehow at that age I didn't really know, but I was being pulled into this world which was actually hitting both marks for me, commercial and muso, and deep and so on, which as I say, I didn't get till I was a lot older. So I started buying albums, Beatles, Monkees, you know, Gary Newman, I've spoke about that sort of stuff, and new stuff at the time like Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, well obviously, and Gary Newman was new at that time, new music, and I don't know, Spandau Ballet and Teardrop Explodes, you know, all the stuff you'd get. And I started buying Kate Bush albums, and I haven't got them all here today. Some of them are still in storage from my move from the last house, but I've got all of them on vinyl, some of them on the Fame label, which was, I think, the cheaper branch of EMI, and they were, I don't know, maybe £5 instead of £8 or something, and then the new live one, and 50 Words for Snow, and you know, Ariel. I have them all. I love them all. So firstly, let's talk about the drummers. Every drummer on, and I think the live drummer was Preston Heyman, is that right? I can't remember. I think so, on the Tour of Life DVD and video, or Betamax as it was, probably when I first bought it. His drumming live was amazing. She gave him a lot of space to play, you know, for the song, obviously, and the songs were ranging from like reggae feels, like the song Kite, you know, to little short kind of ballads like Wow and things, kind of standardy forms, to Don't Push Your Foot on the Heartbreak, which is like a rock thing, but a real amalgam of styles, and being thrown at the band, and they could do anything in Cover the Whole Bass. So live, that DVD, I remember listening to that, especially the outro of James and the Cold Gun, some of his fills and stuff around the drums. And as I say, I'm talking about 10, 11 years of age. It was a big influence. And I used to sit and watch that DVD, or video rather, and be like, whoa. And then same with the albums. So you've got Stuart Elliott and Charlie Morgan that played on a lot of the albums, the earlier albums. If I miss anyone out, I apologise. But both of their drumming, very, song-based drumming, but the sound was great, and what they did with their hats or their bass drum, all the fills and placement of cymbals, all of it, I've learned over the years is just so important, and they taught me a lot about setting up the scene for a vocalist, a female vocalist or male vocalist, whatever. What parts to play, how to hang back, how to come forward. Stuff that, again, that maybe I'd heard on Beatle records and things like that, but I'd never really thought about it. But as I was getting older, the Kate Bush thing was more modern, and it was more, in what was happening at the time, all that kind of stuff. So those two drummers, plus the Steve Gadd stuff later, obviously, Steve just amazingly tasteful, and I think tasteful is the word for all of the drummers who've worked with Kate Bush. Nothing is too much, nothing is underplayed, everything is exactly where it needs to be. So drummer wise, it was amazing. And Kate as an artist, I mean, the voice is incredible. If you just deal with the music, because obviously the artistry of the performance is another thing altogether, and that's amazing too. But the way I think I said to somebody once, it's the way she sort of, with some of her songs, can kind of rip your heart out through your chest, and then like with a banshee look, and then give you your heart, and as if she's kind of wants to make love to you after that moment. She can move those emotions. She can move from all these varying kind of emotional states and places very, very quickly, and she can take you with her, and you're happy to be that person. That one minute you're being dropped, the next minute you're being wooed, the next minute being seduced, and next minute it's just all that kind of world, which is I find fascinating. And certainly when I was a lot younger, some of the songs like In the Warm Room and Feel It and songs like that, I had no idea quite what she was singing about, because I was too young, until I got a little bit older, and then the penny dropped. It was like, oh, okay, now I see what you're getting at. And she never talks about any of those relationship issues, or cheapens them ever, makes them tacky. It never goes that way. Her lyrics are very clever, a bit like Bob Dylan or any good lyricist. They don't have to tell you everything completely and spell it out for you. Through very good wordplay and stuff, they can, evoke those feelings and thoughts. So you go, oh, okay. So that's a genius in itself. And of course, the chords and the mood with the piano is something else, because you imagine some of those early albums she wrote when she was 15 or 16 years old. And that's incredible. How do you write a song like The Man with a Child in His Eyes at 10 or 11 years old, or 14 or whatever? I can't remember the exact story, but she was very young anyway. But the depth of those lyrics and the idea of that character and everything, is just incredible. And like any good artist, she can change personalities, which I've mentioned just a second ago. So she can go through all those different states, and you believe all of them. Whether she's babushka, or, as I say, she's wooing you, or she's talking about running up that hill, the emotion that's involved with that, making a deal with God and stuff. All these things, it's just, that's very difficult to do. It's really difficult. People are watching this who enjoy the music. That's great, isn't it? But, and that's amazing, and you know how that feels. But imagine if you're a musician as well, and you have to sort of, again, like Bowie or something, you have to recreate for a new album every time, and any artist does this. You have to keep moving forward without repeating yourself, and coming up with new scenarios, and trying to think of lyrics and stuff that aren't cliche or basic forms, And when you start looking a little bit deeper like that, you suddenly realise how truly great some artists are. And I think Kate Bush is definitely one of those. And as I say, I could have had all those albums here and held them up. And they're all really important, and a lot of them are very scratched and jumped because I played them on bad needles at parties, and my record player down in the garage, my parents' garage, it wasn't always the best needle. It could have been a nail in there by the end of it, So some of the records were a little bit tatty in the covers, but two that I have got here, there's the On Stage EP over there, next to Bob Dylan, Kate and Bob there together. But two albums that really kind of, when I got to 15, 16, I was really immersing myself into that. And it was just literally before I kind of got into Prince world, really. And of course, Prince and Kate Bush did work together on The Red Shoes, which is an album I didn't mention a minute ago, which is a great record too, obviously. And they did a great thing on that album, which is quite fun. Can't think what it's called now, off the top of my head. Why Should I Love You, I think. But these are two records that dropped at the right time. This one is obviously the classic Hounds of Love remastered that my friend Phil bought me for Christmas. Nice one. Sounds amazing. Now this was the first album, or one of the first. I think The Best of Yes, believe it or not, was my first CD. That was my first CD purchase in 1985 or late 84 or something. And this was my second purchase, I believe. Either that or So by Gabriel. It's one of them anyway. This is an amazing album because it's one of the first albums that I realised there was no cymbals on it. And reading Music Mags, when she was talking about the album, she said she didn't want cymbals on it. And I think I mentioned that in one of my clips that may be released, in a few weeks. You may have seen it already, yeah. It'll be on talking about my upcoming solo album, yeah. So that one would have been premiered and already gone maybe 2 weeks ago or so. So that was kind of interesting. The songs were obviously fantastic. The B-side, the side 2 was a bit like Abbey Road. All the songs kind of segued into each other and kind of felt like they interacted within the same world. I'm not sure if they were supposed to or they were just songs that, like Abbey Road, they were sort of quarter or half finished. So they just put them together. I don't know it. And to be honest with you, I don't care. It's just amazing. But the mood swings between these songs and Dream of Sheep onwards, it just takes you from like a lullaby kind of thing into, even though the song is quite harrowing, but I won't give too much away, you should listen to it, to Waking the Witch and Morning Fog, which is a nice mellow way to finish. But yeah, I'm not here to break all the songs down, but what influenced me was just the sounds on the record. I think there was lots of Fairlight on there, possibly some Lindrum as well as live drums. As I say, no hi-hat, which is quite incredible, really. You don't actually miss any cymbals on this album at all. And I think the other thing that got me about it was because it was on CD, it was so clear and everyone was like, this is the future. It's like, this is amazing. And I remember lying down in my bedroom and taking the speakers off of my side, the side sort of boards or cupboards, whatever they were on, and putting them on the floor. Now, I didn't put them right close to my ears. I wasn't that crazy. But I wanted to get this full stereo effect because some of these songs, voices go from left to right, and she really uses the stereo field really well on this record. So I'd lay down with the speakers quite away from my ears, but I'd lie down there as if they were big headphones, and I'd listen to the album like that. And I remember just getting lost lyrically into her world and the moods, which I know I've kind of spoken about before, but the moods she creates are just so heavy and just so beautiful that you just can't help but disappear into this world. And then another album which is really water damaged, I'm afraid, is this one, which I'm not a massive fan of best ofs normally. It's like that bit in Alan Partridge where the guy asks him, what's your favourite Beatle album? And he goes, I think it's the best of the Beatles. It's a great cop-out buying a best of. But this came out and it went to number 1, it was massive, and it was all the singles. And as I say, it's really water damaged. I daren't open it because it looks awful in there, and look at it, not been stored well in a plastic sheet, obviously, covering. Obviously, I didn't look after this one. But again, this went to parties with me, and this had all the singles on it. And even though I had the albums, I just wanted to get it, and I just love the cover as well. It was kind of like, wow, this whole package is just going to be fantastic. It's all the singles in one place, and I can just run it through, turn it over, play it through without getting to them on my albums and finding those singles and so on. So the music wasn't exactly new, though there was a new version of Wuthering Heights with a new vocal on there. And I think some rhythm tracks on it were new as well. I might be wrong. Some Kate Bush fans will probably say it was the same, but I seem to remember different drums on there or something. Maybe it's a different mix or something like that. But this was on my turntable all of the time, and I play along to all these things. And again, learnt so much from the drummers that played on those records. And I think when I'm composing my own stuff, some of the darkness and the mood stuff that Kate Bush brings, I wish I was a good lyricist. I'm so not. But she must have inspired me some way lyrically, even though I'm not very good at getting them out on paper myself. But I certainly know with my music, some of the stuff, the moods and the colours and musical textures from her music, both chordal and just sonically with the instrumentation, I know she's influenced me greatly, and there'll be some of those influences, if not probably a lot more than I think actually, on my upcoming solo record, which if you haven't seen that one, if you go a few clips back on my YouTube channel, you'll find it. So, Kate Bush, all I can say is thank you, along with those other artists that I speak about. They're all in here. They've all helped me to produce music, to make music, to produce other people's music. If sometimes I'm in the studio and working with artists and they ask me to get a bit more involved than just being a rhythm consultant and drummer, then I will sometimes bring these influences to the table. Like I've said before, anything from the Monkees to Gary Newman, Kate Bush, Frank Sinatra, whatever's needed, whatever's in here that I've heard and I can reference, I will bring forward. And Kate Bush has certainly given me a lot of inspiration and a lot of reference points that I could use in mine and other people's music. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you want to now go out and buy some Kate Bush records, or even just stream if that's your thing. And please, as ever, leave some comments down below. I'd like to hear what you think about Kate Bush and if you've got any thoughts, and if you've ever seen her live. I managed to, unfortunately, I wasn't old enough in 1979 to go, and then I missed the tour, well, the 10 dates or so she did at the old Shepherd's Bush. I missed that one. So if you've got some stories to tell about Kate Bush, please let me know. Leave them in the comments below, as I say. Thanks for checking in, and remember to like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.